Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're going to hold off and just start in about a couple minutes here, but hang tight and we'll get started shortly. Thank you. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in just one more minute. Hang tight. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Casey Murphy, and I'm ACT's Events and Programs Manager. I want to first welcome all of you today for our May webinar event entitled Prospecting and Client Engagement Strategies Your Customers Won't Ignore. Our presenter this afternoon will be Marie Cox. She's the Business Development Manager for Arlington Transportation Partners. And now before we go ahead and get started here, I'd like to go ahead and launch our first polling question here. Just want a quick count here to see how many of you are members of ACT, and if you're not a member, just like to get a feel of those who will be joining us on the call today. We'll give it about another 10 seconds or so here. Most of you are already almost all done that. Awesome. Great. I'm going to go ahead and close that up. It looks like majority of you on the call today are members, which is great. So we thank you and appreciate that. And before we hear from Marie this afternoon, I wanted to quickly take care of a few housekeeping items for you. First, wanted to let all of you know that all attendees are on mute during this webinar. If you have a question or have a problem hearing us, please hit the question mark sign to the left of your name and type in your question. I will do my best to answer your questions as the webinar gets going, but that would be the best way to get a hold of us throughout the webinar. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, but please feel free to type in your question in the question mark section as we go along, and we'll make sure to get it answered for you at the end. Finally, this session is being recorded, and we will have the recording up on the ACT website under the webinar section within 24 hours after the presentation ends. And now I'd like to go ahead and introduce to you David Strauss, ACT Executive Director, to give an update on what ACT has going on right now. David?
Thank you so much, Casey, and welcome everyone. As the premier transportation demand management organization in the United States, ACT strives to build a strong community of professionals working to advance and implement TDM at your work sites or within the communities that you serve. And it's great to see that we had over 250 people register for today's call, really representing a wide range of sectors within the industry. We have private employers, city-state agencies, transportation management associations, regional rideshare programs, consultants, and service providers all joining us online today. Please take a moment right now. We'll do another poll really quickly, just to let us know how many people are watching in your location with you. We'll give everyone just a few, 10, 15 more seconds to answer that, and we'll see where we end up. All right.
I'll launch it right now.
Oh, there we are. So looks about a a third of folks have others joining you in the room today, which is excellent. We encourage you as members to invite other stakeholders to participate in these webinars with you and join in the learning that we provide. As the leading advocate for TDM, ACT really strives to get the most out of our transportation system while improving the lives of commuters, increasing the livability of communities, and supporting the economic growth of businesses as we look to create a better journey for everyone. Right now, as many of you may know, we're facing a significant threat to one of the strongest tools that we have to really impact change, and that's the commuter transportation benefit. And with the passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Bill earlier this year, we saw the benefit weakened, and for many tax-exempt organizations, possibly crippled a bit. Last week, I just wanted to let everyone know ACT had the opportunity to go down with its leadership, its executive committee members, to meet with members of Congress, as well as the U.S. Treasury Department to share what we've been hearing from all of you. And it became clear to us that we must come together as an industry to really protect the benefit. I encourage everyone to take a moment to complete a survey that can be found on ACT's website on the impacts of the transit benefit to your organization, especially if you are a tax-exempt organization. The data will be important to us as we shape our policy response to this issue. If you're a member of ACT, you know about the valuable benefits and services that you receive from your membership, including networking, learning, advocacy, public policy, and research. But if you're not a member, I encourage you to learn more. We have a lot of events that go on throughout the year, and I encourage you to join us at one of those. Our next event is the International Conference, July 29th to August 1st in Anaheim, California, which will bring together over 500 TDM professionals from across the country, as well as Canada and other parts of the world. And just want to run another quick poll to see if you're planning to join us in Anaheim this summer. I'll just give another few seconds and we can close that up.
Almost done here.
All right.
Looks like more folks are still going. All right.
This is really the premier event for the industry. Looks like a good group of folks are still deciding. I will put the plug in right now. There's no better conference to attend if you are focused on the issues of TDM. We have a wide range of sessions from behavior change and marketing communications to new emerging technologies in transportation. There's a little bit of something for everyone. So I encourage you to join us in Anaheim. And then in November, we will be having our TDM Forum, November 13th to 14th in Nashville, which will feature 2 days of discussions on TDM, as well as presentation of our 40 Under 40 Leadership Emerging Leaders Awards, which nominations for that program opened up yesterday. So if you know a young professional in the industry that you think would be worthy of recognition, I encourage you to nominate them. So today's webinar, Prospecting and Client Engagement Strategies Your Customers Won't Ignore, will demonstrate how to put yourself back in the driver's seat of your client relationships and use data to know what your customer wants before they even know you exist. We hope that you'll leave with actionable items from small tweaks and communication tools that completely change your workflow, helping you create a more measurable impact on your customer base. We have a great presenter with us, and it's my pleasure to introduce Marie Cox, who is the Business Development Manager at Arlington Transportation Partners. Marie works with employers to advance commuter benefits programs in Arlington, Virginia, and brings over 6 years of experience in sales and outreach, account management, customer service, working specifically with HR managers to solve complex challenges across a variety of industries. And I know if you all could, you would be joining me in clapping and welcoming Marie Cox.
Hey everyone, and thank you, Dave, for the introduction. Thank you all for joining me today. And as David mentioned, my name is Marie, and I work with Arlington Transportation Partners. And at Arlington Transportation Partners, I work with employers to help them implement TDM measures at their sites. In addition to employer services, ATP also works with multifamily residential properties, commercial properties, hotels, and schools as well. And so for me, most of my career has focused on business-to-business relationships, specifically working with HR managers. And throughout this time, I've had the opportunity, especially here at ATP, to develop a formal process that's helped me to show results in deepening client engagement and increasing the number of meetings that I hold with prospects. And so today, I wanted to share with you my findings, and we'll chat through a little bit about what's going on with clients and why it's so hard to get responses from them, how we can change our approach and start to measure our results. And you'll leave having learned some small changes that you can make that have maximum impact, and some communication tools, database tools, and online tools that you can use that you may not have previously known about, so that you can figure out what works for you. And so what is the problem that we're going to be talking about here? If you've ever sent this type of email saying, hello again, just checking in, you're not alone. I know that I've sent many of these, and so I'm sure that it is something that might sound familiar to you as well. Today, 49% of people who are in sales or outreach say that getting a response is harder now than it was even just 2 or 3 years ago. Additionally, people in our position say that prospecting is what they struggle with most in their roles, and managers agree. There are a few reasons as to why this is happening, and it comes down to about 4 things. The first thing is that while we're just trying to help people live better lives or to improve air quality or reduce congestion in our areas, no matter what, most customers aren't trusting us the way that they used to. And they don't think that we have their best interest in mind. Most people today think that salespeople are all the same and delivering the same information, and so they're not paying us as much attention. And while they used to rely on us for being the person that they come to help make their business decisions, now we're considered one of the least reliable sources. And 80% of decision makers or people involved in making those decisions at the business level don't want to talk to you until after they've been able to do some of the research on their own. And since sales and ads are being pushed at us more so than ever before, from the time that we wake up until the time that we go to sleep, we can't blame clients for being a little bit overwhelmed. Inboxes are averaging around 260 unopened emails, and over half, or about 130, are marketing or sales outreach. In addition to that, when your client sends an email to you, in that time that it takes for them to send that one email, they receive 3 more emails. And so they're constantly being bombarded. And then additionally today, traditional cold emails, or the emails that you send where you just copy, paste, change the person's name and press send, or even worse, the ones where you just BCC a list of about 50 contacts, those receive about a response rate of 1%. So 1 person in 100 people is going to respond off of that. Businesses today are also expecting more than they used to. 89% of businesses expect us to understand their needs and expectations ahead of the first phone call. And 80% of businesses are wanting real-time interactions. More and more, we live in a society that's providing immediate responses, especially with new tools like AI. And if you can't catch up, you risk losing their attention. And then number one, that expectation that customers put on us is that we have subject matter expertise and that we're able to solve all their problems. And as businesses change and customers change, so does the way that we have to respond. So previously, and especially with working with HR managers, you always think that they are more seasoned people who have been around in the company for a while, and you put on them certain expectations. However, today, 46% of those who are involved in the decision-making process are millennials. And today, compared with all other types of media, video is considered the most memorable content that can be delivered by a company, and that's across all age groups. People are consuming videos, news, social media, and research thoroughly. However, they're only skimming emails, PDFs, and blogs. So when I say this, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be sending emails, PDFs, and blogs. Those are still very useful forms of communication. However, we just have to know that when our clients are looking at them, they're just going to skim through them, and so we need to make the information that we want them to catch on to stand out. Luckily, there are a few things that we can do to customize our approach to better meet the needs of our targeted prospects and our customer base. One of the things that is most important to do is to start using marketing to your advantage. I use marketing to find out who is interested in our services and what programs they may want to know more about. And I do this by looking mainly at three things. These include who is clicking on the newsletters that we sent out, who is visiting our website, and what pages are they looking at. And then when they leave our website, what are they taking from our website? And so the tool that I use for this is just our marketing platform, which is HubSpot. So every single month when my newsletter goes out, I anxiously wait and check out our marketing platform to see what my prospects and my clients are clicking on. For prospects, this tells me what types of services they may be interested in. And for clients, this also tells me something that I can probably follow up with them about. So this screenshot shows what I see when I log in and look at who's viewing my newsletters. So I can see how many were delivered, how many were opened, how many were clicked, all of that information. But then it also shows me who clicked and where they clicked. So if you look a little bit farther than halfway down, you'll see that someone clicked on host an event. This is a good opportunity for me to follow up with this person, whether they're a prospect or a client, because I know that if they clicked on that piece, then they might be interested in hosting an event with us, and then I can follow up from there. And just like it's helpful to see what people like in our newsletters, it's also helpful for me to see what people are checking out on our website. There are a few different ways that I do this in our marketing platform, but this is one that I do often. So what this screenshot is showing here is when people look at our page that contains information about our Champions Recognition Program, I can search for that. So I search the page where I feel like that's something that if it's catching their attention, then that's a good point for me to follow up with them at. And I can see who viewed it, when they viewed it, what page exactly they viewed. And if I click on their name as well, it'll bring up their entire history of how they've interacted with our website and our marketing materials so that I can get kind of a history as to what led them there and what else they might be interested in as well. So if this is a prospect, it's good for me to know if they're on this page because I'll be able to follow up with them so that they can join our recognition program if that's something that they're interested in. Or if they are already a client or a champion, then I can follow up with them to talk about where they might be in that recognition program and what they might be able to do to increase their level within that program as well. Additionally, on our website, we have a lot of downloadable content that requests people to provide a set of information in order for them to get a guide. Seeing what people download and take from our website gives me the chance to really see what they're interested in and then also immediately follow up. While my normal process is that I receive an automatic notification and a task when someone downloads a form like this from our website, I can also check out individual performance statistics to see who is downloading something, who has downloaded in the past, and determine if it's something that my clients or prospects are considering useful to them. So that's this example here. This is our commuter benefits guide. And you can see here that it has over 345 people who have viewed it over time. And out of those 345 people, 83 of those have actually gone through the effort of downloading it. That's equal to nearly a 1 in 4 response rate. So it seems like this is something that my clients are finding useful and something that they're pretty often taking from our website. So it's a good thing for me to start leading people to when I'm starting to have conversations with prospects that are around commuter benefits. The second thing that we can do to respond to changing customers is simply to send better emails. I have 3 main rules for this. The first rule, and most important in my opinion, is if it's not personal, don't send it. More and more customers are wanting personalized service and experiences that sets you apart from all of the other emails that they receive in a day. Think about it with things like Amazon. When you log into your Prime account, and you can see all of their recommendations for what you should order based on your past orders. If we're not personalizing experiences as well as a marketing company and we're people, then we need to be doing a better job. And we also need to make sure that the language that we're using speaks to what they need and not what we as people who are talking to them about a particular service need. And lastly, make sure that you're including a small ask or call to action in your email, normally asking for some of their time, and make it easy for them. To do this, I use our sales platform, which is HubSpot, and then I am able to create emails and track them as well through that. And then Calendly, which is a free online calendar. So now I'm going to go through a few examples of the good and the bad when it comes to sending emails. Here's an email that was sent to me a few weeks ago. In this email, a person reaches out to me because I had filled out a survey a few months ago, and now they want to talk to me about a new feature that they're looking into, that they want to hear more about how my team operates to see if it's something that would work. There are some very good parts to this email, but overall, because of the way that it's formatted, this is exactly the way that I received it, and you can see that it's basically my name, and when I filled out the survey, has been put into a form and then just blasted out to me. So when I see this, it basically looks like a spam email. Luckily for this person, I was already working with them at the time, and so I knew who they were and I knew the company. But if this had been anybody else, or if this had just been a company that I had no relationship with whatsoever, this email for me would have automatically been deleted and counted as spam. This is an email also that my colleague Maggie received. And to give you a little bit of background, this was the 3rd one that she had received in a week from this person. Overall, the whole tone of this email is pretty casual. And just to go over a little bit, what he's doing here is he is trying to get her attention by offering up a Starbucks gift card if she gets on the phone with him for a few minutes to talk about their services. The things that I don't like about this email include, number 1, the smiley face in the very first paragraph. I definitely understand that there is a time and place to use emojis in email, But when you are using it in a business-to-business email and you haven't received a response and that doesn't match a relationship with the person, then it's best to hold off on it. The second thing that I don't like about this email is the name dropping that they do of the companies. While it's great that they are working with larger companies like Oracle, American Express, and ESPN, this person did nothing to think about our market or our company size and relate these companies back to us. So if you are going to be name dropping other companies, the best thing that you can do is take into account how small or how large that business is, who that business serves, and what their goals are. The other thing about this email is that with the call to action being that he's going to offer you a Starbucks gift card if you get on a call with him, it's not going to create the type of client engagement that he's looking for. What's going to happen is that he's going to get a few people who eventually say, all right, a Starbucks gift card sounds pretty great. They get on the call, and then after, a 3 or 4 questions that the person asks, they say, I gotta go, and then he'll never hear from them again. And the last thing is in the last line, I have some time today or tomorrow, what do you say? This is expecting the customer to be free exactly when he is. Even if I had read through this email and it was really great and I wanted to get on the phone with him, if I didn't have time today or tomorrow, then to me, if I'm busy, this email pretty much says nothing and I would delete it. So you have to meet your customer halfway. Now for a couple of examples who are doing a little bit better in terms of sending emails or customer engagement. This is the Instagram page for Kimpton Hotels. Kimpton personalizes just about every experience down to having your dog's favorite treats when you arrive at the hotel. But here with their social media, they do something that's so small but personal and that I've been doing for years just to increase response rates and client engagement. And that's just the simple thing of using the person's name. Why it's so great also on the social media page is because it means that they actually had to go over onto the person's Instagram page to find out their actual name and not just their handle. As you can see here with Making Our Hearts Melt, Kathleen, thank you, or you can come to us anytime, Michelle. I've been doing this in emails for a few years, and what I do is I'll use their first name not only just at the start of the email, but also towards the end of the email, either when I'm asking a question of them or asking them to do something, or as I'm closing out the email. This is something that's helped me to build trust with customers because it shows that you care about them and is, again, one of the smallest but most effective changes that you can make to better your relationships. And then last year, while I was playing around in our database, and I clicked on a feature that was part of the Pro version that we didn't currently have access to. Right after, I got this email that says, I noticed you clicked on the template reporting tool, so I wanted to give you a little context on how that can be leveraged at your company. And then he goes on to step-by-step explain how he doubled his email response rate with that exact tool. There are quite a few things that I like about this email. Number one, the timing was super appropriate. It's not creepy at all to me that he says in the beginning of the email that he knows that I clicked on something, because it is something that I needed right then. And then he gives a little bit away for free. So I do this in some of my emails now as well, where I will give them a little bit of something, whether it's just a piece of new hire materials or something like that over email, that can keep them coming back to me for a little bit more. And then it's call to action in this email, done through the calendar link, makes it super easy for me to book just a few minutes with him to chat and see what my data would be. So we've actually started using a calendar link like what was shown in the last email through a free service. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is called Calendly, but there's a bunch of other ones out there too. So this is just to show you a little bit about what that looks like in case you're interested in something similar. Everything in the background is my homepage, and then I can click to share my link, and I can either copy it and paste it into an email, or I can embed it on my website. And then when a client clicks on my meeting link, they see my availability like this, and then they can pick a day and a time that works for them to chat. Once they've picked a time, I've made it ask a few different questions so that I know exactly how they want to connect, if they prefer a phone call or an in-person meeting for our first chat, and if there's any specific items that they want to cover. The reason that I include this question specifically is so that I know their goals and their expectations before I even go into the meeting. So it's super useful when people use it and fill that out. And then once it's scheduled, they can add the event to their calendar, and it also immediately gets put on mine. The benefits to having something like this are that it eliminates the back and forth, and it gets people to schedule a meeting quickly right when it's at the top of their mind. The third thing that we can do to better understand our prospects and clients is to start measuring our results. See what they're interested and what they're responding to, and then test out some things like subject lines or varying call to actions, emails, all of that. And then use our own program data that you already have access to show your clients that you are a subject matter expert. In our sales platform, I can track my emails so I know what's being clicked on, what clients are opening, and what they're not opening. It's important because I'm able to see what companies like, what they're responding to, and what different calls to action might work. So as you can see here, this is a view where I can see exactly what links have been clicked on in any sales email that I send. The bottom one says that somebody clicked on the link example. And so this was a quick glance that I had included, which shows the nearby transportation options based on a business's location. They can be customized to also include the company's benefits and all of that information as well. And so this would be a good opportunity for me to then follow up with that person, because I could then offer to further customize that example one to include the company's benefits and other information. And then for testing out new things, this kind of goes back to kind of that email that I had showed you guys before. So these are two similar templates. One was for people who had attended our banquet and the call to action was to schedule a meeting. And the other template was for those who didn't attend the banquet and the call to action was to watch a video that was shown at the event. The one with the video got the highest engagement rates, which goes back to what we discussed earlier about video becoming more and more a preferred communication tool. And in transportation, we do have access to a lot of data because we have to report on a lot of different things. I started analyzing this data for a specific neighborhood that I work with called Crystal City. And I started using it to show prospects and clients that I was talking to different trends that are happening in their area. This helps to paint me as the expert and is normally the point in the conversation where people start to write notes down. When I talk to businesses in this neighborhood, I share a few different things. I share what the average transit benefit is for the area. I'll share that they have a high number of Capital Bike Share corporate memberships, and that the number of companies that are offering a financial benefit to commuters who bike or walk to work is steadily increasing. This shows me as a resource and then also helps them to build trust in me. So now I'm just going to share my typical process and the results that I've seen through it, and hopefully leave you with some tools to help you form your own as well. So when I'm reaching out to a new prospect or when they reach out to me, I start by seeing if they've had any interaction with our website. So I will go into the contact, see if they've viewed any pages on our website, see if they've opened or clicked on any emails to gain insight into what they might be interested in. Additionally, I'll go onto their website as well and look to see if there are any recent blog articles, news articles, if they're hiring, because that could show that their company is growing and that they might need to implement some new benefits because of that, as well as what their current benefits are if they have them listed on their website. And then after I've done my research, I'll send a personalized email describing our services to them based on the research that I've already done, and use my calendar link as the call to action to schedule some sort of meeting. A phone meeting for me is typically scheduled first. That is number one, because they're provided with the option of scheduling a phone meeting or an in-person meeting. And I've typically seen that if they are going to be a new client, that a phone meeting is typically what's wanted first. I like this because it helps me to build trust with them. And then also this works with a little psychology trick that once you've gotten them to say yes once, it's easier to get them to say yes again. So then the second meeting I normally book on the first phone call. And then I schedule further follow-up based on an engagement schedule. I'll normally ask them as to how often they want to hear from me, or based on what the next steps are when I feel like they should be hearing from me. And then we can go from there. An example of how this has worked is earlier this year, I reached out to an association in the area who I noticed had downloaded a few things about telework from our website. And then when I had gone onto their website, they had an article that their vice president of HR had written on the subject. So I sent a personalized email over that talked about what I thought of the telework article and some of the services that we offered that could help build on that. And after I sent the email, I received a phone call from their office manager where we talked through our services. And then on that meeting, after that phone call, we scheduled a meeting with me, the office manager, and the HR coordinator to further determine the partnership. And in addition to that experience, some of my other results include that through this, I've booked 30% more meetings with prospects. And that means that now half of all of my meetings result in a prospect to client conversion. And every single phone call or meeting that I've held has resulted in some sort of follow-up action with the client. And overall, this has shown that I'm able to build more trust, deeper relationships, and help to further position me and ATP as a resource and an expert. Some of the other findings that I've seen through this are that I started using ATP's special pink color that we use for links on our website in sales emails. And this has resulted in higher click rates when it's been compared to the regular blue link color that you normally get. And as discussed, we've repeatedly seen adding video to increase interaction with our emails. And the majority of my meetings are now scheduled through the online calendar that I use. I do still offer that clients can just let me know what time they want to chat or anything like that. However, the online calendar seems to be the preferred method of scheduling those times with me. And then using the company name who I'm reaching out to in the subject line has also increased the response rate because it shows that personalization. Finally, I wanted to leave you with some tips for creating your own process. The first thing that I challenge you to do is to start thinking about your customer or your client's journey. What the typical process is for them, from what gets them interested enough to talk to you, to at what point in the process do they start to implement new programs. The more informed that you can be about your customer's journey, the better you can develop relationships and start to understand them. Additionally, think about what services you provide, and if you don't have informational pieces on it, then talk to marketing and see if you can create one. The more that you have, the more likely a client may be to see you as an expert, and the more likely they may be to also reach out to you instead of you having to reach out to them. And when you're prospecting, a lot of times there is a tendency to reach out to lower within the company rather than higher. In my experience, I've seen more benefit from aiming higher in the leadership of a company than lower. And the reason for this is that even if you do get a response from the administrative assistant or the office manager, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have to get approval from someone higher up, putting a stall in the process for you. If you start prospecting higher, then leadership can decide if there's an interest in it and then pass it over to the appropriate person. With my example earlier with the association that I had worked with, that was the case there where I had reached out to the vice president of HR and then ended up talking up through the company. Lastly, an overarching theme here is to simply try and get to know who you're talking to, even if you don't really know them yet. Even if you can't see their interaction with your website or your emails, or if there is none, you can check to see if they have a LinkedIn profile or a biography on their website. The reason that this is so important is because it's going to help you feel a connection with them and get a conversation going that happens within a friendly tone and more conversational, because you won't be as nervous and it won't seem like as scary of a thing. So I hope that through this presentation there has been a thing or two that you can take back with you to your organization and put to use. We will go ahead and open it up for questions if there are any, but if something does come to mind for you, my contact information is here, and so you can always feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Marie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. I think you gave some valuable information to folks, which is wonderful. For those of you on the line now, we are going to open it up for Q&A. If you do have a question for Marie, please type it in the question box to the left of your name. We have a few here now. We'll go ahead and get started, but please feel free to type it in at any time at this point. Marie, what are your performance metrics for overall effort? You know, what are you kind of looking at in terms of you know, kind of getting a good scale of how you're doing?
So what I'm looking at to see how I'm doing is I look at click rates a lot, because that basically tells me a click rate can basically amount to a response rate at this point, especially with the use of the online calendar, because that's typically my call to action. So I'm looking at how many people are clicking on my emails. If I'm testing out and if I want to see if a subject line is working in particular, then I'll look at the open rates. But it kind of depends as to what I particularly want to measure at that moment to see if something's working, in order to see how it's performing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that helps answer the question. Another one we have, and I see some people starting to type in a little bit about it now too, is your strategies, you know, that you use. I know you guys talked about that you use HubSpot. I love HubSpot, but I know for a lot of our members and our folks that it can be a really costly service to use. So I didn't know if you had any other strategies out there that might be helpful for folks to utilize and may be besides HubSpot.
Yeah, so there is some free aspects to HubSpot where they can see, like I remember when I had the free version instead of the pro version, I could still see up to 200 emails as to who was clicking on it and who was opening it. And so there are some free versions of that. I'm not particularly sure as to what some of the names of the other ones that are out there, what they are, but I know that there are a ton of new sales databases that are coming up that are providing those sorts of things, and especially if they're newer, a lot of times they do offer certain features of it like that for free.
Okay, do you overall, we did have a question here, like HubSpot overall?
Oh yeah, it has definitely been I come from a more kind of, I guess, traditional outreach background where there weren't any of these tools that we were using before. As soon as I came to ATP, we weren't actually making much use of the HubSpot CRM and sales piece of the thing. And as soon as I started kind of exploring the HubSpot sales part of it, I haven't stopped since, and it's amazing as to kind of the information that you can grab from it and utilize to kind of improve your programs and your outreach through it. So I would highly recommend it.
And I guess just to touch on that a little bit, we had a few questions here. Were there other options that you were looking at before you finalized with HubSpot as your ultimate choice?
So we have another database that's called Sugar. And that is basically, it houses all of our contacts and that kind of thing. And it houses our program data. And we had always had access to HubSpot because we had the marketing side of things through HubSpot. So I didn't look around too much at some of the other databases or things like that we could use, because with HubSpot in particular, we already had access to it. We just weren't using a whole piece of it.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. And just a reminder, I know we've had some questions that come through. I have some more here for you, Marie. But this webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website for everyone to be able to download after the fact. So you'll still get to hear all these questions and answers to them at the end. Another one for you, Marie. Do you have any recommendations for automation of making it super personal, I guess, in your emails?
Yes. So you can do a few different things, whether you have HubSpot or whether you have just like regular email, to make things a little bit more personal. I personally use a lot of templates that are used for different situations and that kind of thing, where I can put in the contact's name in multiple places in the email and send it. Before I had HubSpot, I honestly did this through Mailmerge, and would send a bunch of emails to similar contacts that way. But if you just use a bunch of different templates and can put in that kind of personal information with the customer name, it will still save you time. And the thing about personalizing emails is that you still, again, you want them to be personal. So it is going to take a little bit more time. But the thing is that you are going to get more results based off of it. I remember in my last position, I sent an email out. I had majored in French in college, and I sent an email out to this organization that was about teaching foreign languages. And I talked about how that related to my personal life and my interests and all of that. And that person ended up contacting me to get services from us, and they only talked to us because they had liked my email so much. So it does actually make a difference too if you can over personalize it and just send personal emails. Even though there are definitely situations where you want to send a lot of similar emails, and that's, I think, where templates comes into play.
Okay, and I think you had just answered this question, but so you kind of use HubSpot then for your merge for emails. You don't use a Mailmerge for email communication, correct?
I don't use Mailmerge for communication anymore, no.
Okay. Someone had just asked here, have you created any automated drip campaigns specific to commuter types, like carpool or vanpool?
So we have a vanpool program that does a lot of its own outreach. So I know that she does a lot of campaigns in particular through HubSpot using the templates and talking to commuters directly. But I don't personally do a ton of that outreach. It's, again, person by person and how our company kind of works.
Okay, great. This next one here, I'm going to rephrase it just a little bit, but I think the person is just trying to look to see how you can connect the idea of sales and marketing to TDM programs. Are there things that you've seen to make the connection between the two to kind of make them work, and how you've done that?
Yes. So pretty lucky that at ATP, I feel like our marketing and our sales are pretty well aligned. And for marketing, they take a lot of what we're seeing into consideration. So in terms of commuters and how to make sure that marketing and sales are kind of working together toward that goal of behavior change and all of that, we do offer, I would say that our guides are kind of our best example of this, is having those downloadable guides that commuters or that businesses can grab up off of our website, that then leads them into a sales process basically with us, giving us the immediate opportunity for interaction with them, is a great example of that.
Okay, great. We've got quite a few more questions here. If you can hang on for us, Marie, here. Everyone's excited to ask you a question. Do you find that sending a personal email through a platform like Campaign Monitor instead of through your email client increases or decreases your success rate?
So I haven't specifically had, I haven't specifically used Campaign Monitor, but here is what I will say. If it is something that, so for example, we have our marketing emails that go out. They, in addition to our newsletters, they go out about, different things throughout the month when they're needed. If they don't look like a personal email, then the interaction is going to go down. But if it is something that does look personal and is at least somewhat personalized, meaning that you're using the person's name, meaning that ideally you're also putting the company's name in there and making sure that the formatting is correct, then I feel that the engagement with the email would be about the same as if you individually sent it.
Okay. This next question is coming from a current HubSpot user, and they want to know, they don't like using the broadly broadcast bulk prospecting emails, but when returning from such as a trade show with 100 to 150 new prospects, the time constraints of sending a personalized email to each contact are prohibitive. What insights can you share to make these emails as effective as possible?
So what I've done in those situations is, so for example, I guess to kind of relate this to that, we had some major bus changes that were coming to an area that I work in last year. And so there was no way that I was going to be able to send out hundreds and hundreds of templates within the time that I needed to regarding this. And so what I did was, through the marketing side of HubSpot, is I created basically a plain text email, and a lot of my other colleagues will still use this for prospecting and that kind of thing. It's basically a mail merge effect. You can still use the company name and the contact name and all of that stuff, but it looks like a personal email that's being sent out, that's blasted out to all of the contacts that you would want it to go to. So it's shortening the amount of time that you have to spend on it. It's still looking personal, and I would assume that if it's following up after a trade show, the messaging that you're going to be sending is fairly similar, so you shouldn't need to send a ton of different variations of it.
Okay, great. That's a good one. Thank you. In regards to this next one, any recommendations as to where to place your ask in an email, beginning, middle, or end?
So it depends definitely on the email that you're sending. I will typically include mine towards the end. But with this, what I will say is that if you're including it towards the end, you want to make sure that your email is either fairly short, or that your information is sectioned off so that you're not going to lose their attention. So, and again, because people do just kind of skim emails versus reading it, what I'll do a lot in my emails is I will include short bulleted lists, so that things are kind of sectioned off a little bit, and then right after that bulleted list is where I'll include my ask. which I'll kind of, and if it is part of a larger paragraph, then I'll section it off into its own little one sentence paragraph so that it kind of calls it out a little bit more that this is what I'm asking for.
Awesome. Okay. Few more here. Have you experimented with infographics versus text-heavy emails?
So I have not necessarily worked with infographics too terribly much. I can tell you that I think that they are a good way to deliver that kind of information. What I do in emails is when I have a lot of information that I'm trying to get across to a client, or when sometimes I'll come up with like a customized plan for a solution that I'm offering them or something like that. I'll put it into a PDF format and attach it to the document, which kind of does almost the same thing, but not quite. It is a lot more information than an infographic is. But I have seen success through this because businesses do seem to respond well to it, in terms of it's giving them the information that they're looking for. I think that infographics would reach the same point, especially if you're just providing them with smaller, more concise information, kind of like the infographic that I had showed earlier with the neighborhood that I work with and some of the information that's written into them.
Awesome. Thank you. Just kind of a few more questions here about, I think people are intrigued by HubSpot. Wanting to know more about like the privacy options here. I know just from personal experience as well that, you know, sometimes HubSpot can identify who you are without logging in. You know, have you run into that? Is there another way? How do they kind of identify you?
So I guess I haven't really run into that. I would say that some of the issues that I have had in terms of the privacy with it and that kind of thing are that sometimes, so if I'm tracking my emails, sometimes it will track all of the emails that I send internally as well. And so if I don't, but however, you can set things up in it so that it's not tracking emails that you send to a certain, like if I'm sending an email to anyone who has the transpartners.com email address or anything like that, I can remove that as being tracked so that it won't look at any emails that I'm sending that way.
Okay, but it can't, in viewing, if someone were to come on and view the website, I guess they're saying, and how would they know their name?
Oh, if someone okay, so if someone comes on and views the website, how does HubSpot know their name? It is normally through if they filled out a form on our website or that kind of thing is when it starts to know their name. Sometimes it'll track the domain that they're using, so or their IP address or that kind of thing. So they'll know if it's from a certain company without knowing their name specifically. But normally when it knows the person's name, it is because they have interacted with our website in some way before or because they're already in our database.
Okay. And lastly, I know you kind of touched upon this a little bit, but I think there are, and I just know a few other groups out there that use Salesforce pretty heavily in terms of making contacts with others. Did you evaluate looking at using Salesforce at all? And, you know, what made you decide, I guess, in the long run to choose HubSpot over, you know, ones that I think a lot of our folks use a lot?
So, and again, because we already were using HubSpot on the marketing side so heavily and had access to all of this stuff on the sales side of it that just wasn't being utilized, I didn't evaluate too many other platforms at all because my focus was mainly just on making use of what we already had available to us. As far as Salesforce goes, I mean, I have heard really great things from people who do use Salesforce and that it is a very widely used thing. What I like about HubSpot is just how well it also integrates with our marketing in order for me to just go to one place and be able to see everything. I know that HubSpot does have certain integrations with Salesforce, but unfortunately anything beyond that, I'm not exactly sure for Salesforce.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much. I think this is the most amount of questions we've ever received, so this is awesome. Thank you for taking the time to answer everyone's questions. And David's just going to follow up with a few things here.
No, Marie, just thank you so much for leading today's webinar, and thank you to everyone on the phone that was able to call in. Just to remind everyone, there will be the recording up on our website under webinars, probably by tomorrow afternoon. And again, remind everyone to look into attending our international conference at the end of July. Registration is open, www.actconf.org. As well, if you are hearing any impacts around the transit benefit and the changes and how it's impacting your members, please feel free to reach out to us, and I encourage you to submit the survey on our website. So,
thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.